Hi, welcome to Turn-Based Besties, a podcast where two grown adults with no free time talk about their favorite RPGs. I'm DJ.
And I'm Sam, and we're besties that love to game.
Yeah, we do. Sam and I were both just on vacation, sadly not vacation together.
Aw.
I know, it's okay. One of these days we'll live out our dreams of
Yeah, we've
renting.
never been on vacations together,
No, shut
ever.
up. No, I mean, we have been on vacations together with our group of friends that we lovingly call Framily, but you and I have also always talked about wanting to take a vacation to like the woods or like the
hmm
mountains and rent a cabin and just like the two of us and like we'll play video games all weekend.
Well, recall. So, yeah, we do that. We go outside
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
like walk around and enjoy. That's why we're in a cabin. And then we don't feel guilty about playing video games like the rest of the time.
Yeah. Like we'll walk outside to be like, "Look, we were outside." And then we'll walk immediately back in to play video games all weekend.
Wow, these trees look a lot like the trees in the game we're playing. I want to go
Oh,
play that game.
I want to go
Let's go.
play that game. Nice.
But who am I? They probably wouldn't look like the trees in the game you're playing because you'd be playing an old school 16-bit.
If the trees look like the games, I'd be like, wow, these trees out here look so pixelated and 16-bit. Amazing.
What is going on? But
Uh-oh.
well, one day that trip will happen. That'll definitely happen. It's not lofty. It's not a lofty goal.
No, I mean we could just do it. I mean we could do it in a couple weekends if we wanted to, but we are busy and have like families and stuff.
That's the kicker.
I know.
Anyway, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But we did go on separate vacations.
Yeah, how was your vacation?
So my family, again, being a father of two with a wonderful wife, we went to Disney for the first time with the kiddos. So again, kiddos are 5 and 2, and we took them to Disney, as they call it. They add an extra syllable, Disney.
Oh, Disney.
It's Disney, but no, it was great. It was really good. There's a lot of stressful things to a Disney vacation. Scheduling when you go to which park and how you're going to go on each ride, because you have to get if you want to go on more rides, you probably have to get the Genie Plus pass, and then there's individual lightning lane. There's so many different things to it. It's complicated, so that's stressful. But it was, I would say, I was impressed by. I didn't go in with high expectations because I thought it would be stressful and whatever else. I didn't, and I always want to kind of undercut my expectations, but I would say I was very pleasantly surprised by how fun it was, especially for the kids. They just even seeing the characters and getting to go hug them, getting to walk around the park and see characters and see the big rides. It was just, gushing with joy here and there. And we'll see what they recall and remember. But at the time, at the moment, they absolutely loved it. And in the 5-year-old will likely remember a lot of these things. So that was good. That was real good. So
Yay.
yeah. So better than expected, as far as I just thought there'd be a lot more stressors and everything, and the kids did great, and there were fewer stressors than expected. So that was good. There were some funny things and some good things. You know, uh, we did find out. We knew this somewhat. We did find out. In loves roller coasters. Um, you know, she's all about that life, which is great. Her friend that we went with, that's about her age, not so much. She does not like roller coasters, stressful things, whatever else. So we did get to take in on one of the roller coasters. It's the Slinky Dog from Toy Story roller coaster. She had a blast. She was screaming, and at one point she says, "Oh my gosh, my tummy hurts so bad." I was like, "Oh no, really?" She goes, "No, it's a good thing." And I guess it was that, feeling of your stomach going up into your chest, and she liked that. However, that same excitement is a little maniacal when we were on the plane ride on the way home and there was a lot of turbulence. I mean, a lot of turbulence, and people were gasping and scared. And In is cackling and laughing, saying, "This is so fun," on the airplane. So, so anyway, so there's that whole thing. We'll see how that goes. But no, they loved it. Every Disney character, everything, which is great. Yeah, there will be. there were other funny things that I jotted down if we want to talk about the daddy can you tell me everything's about and those kind of things. But if you want to enlighten us about your vacation, and then I can go into maybe some other funny kid stuff.
Yeah.
If you like that.
Well, we've started our segment of Daddy Can You Tell Me? So after I briefly tell you about our vacation, the fans want to know.
Enlighten me on what a non Disney vacay was like.
It was pretty great. We took a small little weekend trip down to Cancun. Neither of us have ever been to Mexico before, so we went to an all expenses, not all expenses, what do you call it? All inclusive. Yeah, no expenses were paid. We paid them all. But all inclusive resort just for adults, and it was really pretty cool. There was no need for us to ever leave the resort, and it was our first time in Mexico, so we thought maybe we'll just stay at the resort and see what it's all about. So we went to every restaurant there, which was pretty exciting. You know that our love language is food, so it was pretty cool to eat different Mexican versions of food. And what I mean by that is there was a Japanese restaurant, but it's like through like the Mexican lens. And then there was an Italian restaurant and a French restaurant and then a traditional Mexican restaurant. There was another one that was just like a buffet that kind of just had something from the other four restaurants as well, you know. So it was pretty fun. We did a couples massage. We'd also never had massages before. I also can't say the word. Um, which was romantic and fun. I texted you about our crepe night
You did.
where we had romantic crepes, which was very fun, and I won't go into any further detail with that. Yeah, and we then laid on the beach one day under like a little cabana for about 8 hours. So we were in the shade the entire time, and everyone else was like rocking these like sweet beach bods, and like we looked pretty good, but we were basically just drinking champagne, reading books, and eating nachos and burgers on the beach. Like we literally ordered nachos, and then we were like, we're still hungry. Can we each order a burger?
I wouldn't
So
expect any less,
I
quite
know.
honestly.
So that was our little weekend down to Mexico. Very fun. Got to read some of my YA young adult adventure books. So I had a really good time, and so did my husband.
That sounds exquisite. That's great. I'm really, really happy for you all. And you really leaned into the complete opposite of what we did, because not only did you just go somewhere, you said no kids resort.
Yeah, we were like, remember how we like to take ice cream cakes from kids? We were like, we can't. That's a callback for our listeners. We were like, so cool. We can't be in any place with children, so only adults. And we were also probably the youngest people at the resort.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I
At the very end, when we were leaving, they were like, "Hey, so we have other properties in Cancun. If you want to come back, we probably have one that has a younger population." And I said, "Well, let me stop you right there. No, 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 no. We don't want younger people at all. We're cool being with the calmer, older resort. Thank you so much." And they're like, "Well, you look like you're in your 20s." And I said, "Thanks, I'm not at all."
That was nice of them.
Very nice of
Really
them.
buttering y'all up.
I know they're like, "Give us your money," and I'm like, I'm gonna give you my money. I am, but we want to stay here at the Quiet Resort. Thank you.
So that resort didn't have, in addition to all the restaurants, it didn't have a nightclub or anything else like that. It
It,
had a
it
night that night bingo club.
at nighttime they had a circus, and then they had a fire show. Yeah, like I'm
A
not joking.
circus?
Yeah, they had a circus on the third floor, and then they had a fire show Sunday night out by one of the pools. Like there was some fun stuff
Cool.
happening,
Yeah.
but there was no nightclub that you have to leave the resort for that.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. I'm so happy for you all. And um, That's awesome. And again, one day we'll do our other vacation ideas together that time, maybe.
Yeah.
But for the so for the Daddy Tell Me Everything segment, this one was we were driving and In says, Daddy, tell me everything you know about elevators. What makes them go up and down? And so I was explaining some of those things. And Jay, again, the 2 year old, he's been having issues when he's not involved and wants to be involved in the conversation. So he's been interjecting commonly. Um, while I'm trying to talk to In about elevators, Jay is just going, Daddy, 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 Daddy. I saw a dog today. Straight up, Buddy the Elf. I saw a dog today, and it was fantastic. And he was just so happy to tell me that in the middle of our story, so that he could partake in the conversation. So that was pretty good, pretty good. The other real quick J interjection would be when we were at Animal Kingdom at Disney. So I'll marry the two here. When we were at Disney, also when we were at Animal Kingdom, were going on the safari, so you should see safari animals. So asks, will there be any cats or maybe turtles on this safari, Daddy? And without skipping a beat, Jay chimes in, what about crabs?
What about
So
crabs?
there were no crabs. It was safari animals. No crabs. Anyway, so that is the last bit that I will bring up my children at the moment. But lots of fun was had by all, and lots of funny comments by them.
Good. Yay, it's nice to go on vacation as adults.
Yeah, it is.
Speaking
What
of
else?
vacation, just kidding. Um, the first time
Our
I played,
segues.
I know, right? Our segues are pretty awesome. The first time I played the game that we're going to discuss here, I was taking a small vacation in our spare bedroom because I was sick. So I was isolated away for a couple days, so I did not get the rest of my family, my husband and dog, sick. And the game we are discussing today it's in my list of I think top 20 games I've played, and we are discussing Live Alive, and Sam calls the game Live Alive, and a lot of people do.
I'm
And
so sorry. I'm wrong.
no, it's okay. You are wrong, though. Actually, I mean, I don't know if you are. I went. I did some like deep dive, and Nintendo Direct official announcement back in 2022 on YouTube. They pronounce it Live Alive, so rhymes with dive a dive, or chive, or hive, or clive.
I think you're right too. When I was looking up things as well, I think I am wrong.
Oh, good. I love to hear it. So we're discussing Live Alive, a JRPG today. It was originally released on the Super Famicom in Japan in 1994. For those who are not familiar, that is the SNES, but the Japanese version. The developer and publisher of Live Alive is Square, lovingly known for games such as Final Fantasy or Chrono Trigger. Interestingly enough, it was directed by Takashi Tokita in his directorial debut. And while this game at the time did not exactly set the world on fire, it sold fewer than 300,000 copies, which folks considered a commercial failure. I thought that seems like a lot of copies to sell, but I guess it wasn't. Tokita would go on to direct Chrono Trigger and one of my favorite games, Parasite Eve. Both games I think we should cover at some point. I actually think I have Parasite Eve on our schedule for the end of 2024, so
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna make you play that one. He was also the lead designer for Final Fantasy IV. So The remake then was released in 2022 for the Switch, and in 2023 it was released for PS4, PS5, and Steam slash Windows. Like many folks, and I think you're in the same boat, Sam, I'd never heard of this game until it was announced by Nintendo Direct.
Never. Yeah.
I think a reason for that is because it was never released outside of Japan. It had an unofficial English translation, like a lot of old Super Famicom games did, like God that we discussed a couple episodes ago. The graphics in the old game, they look okay for such an old game, but the color palette is atrocious, especially in the battles. It's drab and gross looking. So
Hmm.
I'm really happy that they made the remake so bright and vibrant.
Yeah, so I mean, the visuals would probably be the most striking change to the remake, I would say. But there are several changes to the remake. So the visuals are the 2D HT upgrade in the vein of Octopath Traveler 1 and 2, and so many of the other games that we see, Triangle Strategy, those kind of things. And yeah, it's definitely a lot brighter. And I like how the color palette is different for various aspects. It's that kind of deep purple in Japan. There's just a lot more bright accents, I would say. And then just like those other games, it has wonderful attack animations and fancy particle effects and lighting with shadows, and it really is vibrant now, I would say. And so the visuals are the most striking update. Other things that were changed would be the music and the score, and you'll talk about that later on, but it's been updated and rearranged. There's now full voice acting in all cutscenes and battles as well. There's new hand-drawn character artwork. And then a small thing is that there's not exactly a mini map, but kind of like an indicator in the corner where it'll show you potentially the next point that you're walking towards or heading towards, and that helps. I think considerably. It's not as good as a map or a mini map, but it's helpful, and that's a good updated quality of life.
You and I both love a map or a mini map in a game, and a lot of these old games just like they kind of just left you hanging. They just said, "Cool, guess you have to use a guide or you have to just wander around until you get lucky." So it was nice that there was at least an indicator on where to go next.
Yes. So, getting into the game itself and kind of the gameplay aspects. So, there's a lot of characters in the game. Um,
There are. I know. I was like, I don't want to
yeah, I
say,
was
should
counting
we
them out. I was like, oh shoot, I should know exactly the number. Anyway,
there
I believe there's 8 characters, right? Eight main initial characters you can choose between, and each one has its own storyline, its own story path. Each segment will initially take 30 minutes to 3 hours ish, somewhere in that range, and it's their own encompassed small story, and that's great. And each one has some shared aspects, but also its own mechanics. So you might have, and they're also separated by time. So not only different spatially, but they're separated by time. You go from prehistory all the way to the far future and everywhere in between. So different aspects or different parts to each story. The far future is kind of a sci-fi horror, and there's very limited battling. That one's creepy but very cool. There's a present day one that's more like Street Fighter style, just battling all the way through. You have ancient Japan where it's stealth and infiltration. So there's all these different aspects. When we bring up each of the characters, we can go a little bit more into that. But the variety is um, really something that is a highlight, I would say.
agreed.
Each one is so varied and different despite the similarities that you really want to jump into the next one. You're intrigued by the last one, and you want to go to the next one. And that bite size aspect really appeals to me too. My play style for games, being able to play 30 minutes to a couple hours and finish a chapter of something is really fits with what I can do and what I like to do. That's another reason I like Octopath Traveler so much, is you have chapters for each storyline. So this is somewhat similar to that. So anyway, other gameplay aspects, the parts that are conserved, segments between all of the character storylines would be the turn-based battle system, which is rather unique. So it is a turn-based battle system, but it is done on a 7x7 isometric grid. So you move your characters, and the bad guys are within that grid system as well. And when you can attack is turn-based, and it's based on your character's speed, but also the attack that you're going to utilize. Certain attacks are quicker, and certain attacks might take several turns or longer, kind of to initiate. When you're moving around, you'll see the charge meter above each character start to grow there. So if you're trying to move around a bad guy or move away from them, you'll see their charge meter extend until they can have an action. So it's rather turn-based, but it's not just you go, I go, you go, I go. It's based off your character movement and also which action or ability you're trying to use and how long that takes to cast or perform. So the grid, I'd say it's much smaller than something like a strategy RPG, like a Fire Emblem or a Final Fantasy Tactics or a Tactics Ogre. It's not like that. And there's no real terrain. There's not elevation. There's not terrain in the way. It's just 7x7. And then, quite honestly, I would say the most similar game that I've played like this would be the second RPG that the creators of South Park made, the South Park, the Fractured But Whole game. That was the clever name they came up with for that one. But that one is actually I think it's 4x7 grid,
Okay.
and that you're moving along, and so it's very similar. You're casting spells and things and moving on a grid with bad guys there. So that's the only one that I've played that's rather similar. But so that shows it's a very unique, or there are some unique aspects to the turn-based battle system there. So attacks and abilities, there's no mana, no MP. It's all kind of that time based. So it's how long does it take for you to cast it or to perform it? And if it's a more powerful attack, it generally takes longer. And then the range or how you attack is specific to that ability or attack. Sometimes they're very simple. It's just kind of a plus, right adjacent to you spot, above you, below you, or whatever. So you have to position yourself so that the person you're trying to attack is above you, right to the side, right behind you. But then it gets rather complex. You might only be able to attack 2 spots up and 2 spots over diagonally in all the corners, or the grids for your attack patterns are extremely varied, which is cool. It allows you to really have some rather customizable move sets and ways to attack the bad guys, which I liked. Normal things like resistances and vulnerabilities to different attacks, if they're fire, wind, all those things exist in this game. And then there's a lot of different status effects to paralysis, sleep, poison, petrification, those kind of things. Let's see. Most of the segments do not have random battles. Most of the segments have enemies on the screen that you can see.
That's true.
However, later on in the game, it does jump back into the classic trope of random battles. So
It
be
does.
aware.
And we can't say anything there. I don't want to give away too many spoilers. You know what I mean? Because it's
I don't want to either, because it's a game that we are highly recommending, and it is a game that's rather short compared to most games that we'll probably recommend.
oh yeah.
So you would get to the spoilery parts quicker than in other games.
Yeah. Oh, ooh, I just love it. You're right.
Difficulty wise, I'd say it's overall rather low, but if you don't pay attention, you can get wiped out. You
Yep.
can definitely get wiped out. I think the Wild West, I had a little bit of trouble at the end because I don't, is that spoilery to talk about the traps and the other things? So,
Oh
so
no.
in the Wild West one, you have to build traps and you take out some of the bad guys. I don't think I spent enough time as I maybe should have to effectively place the traps. And so when it came down to fighting the final battle, there was a lot more. There were a lot more individuals I was fighting against than I could have otherwise been fighting. And let's see here. You level up, and that gets you the same kind of normal level up system. You'll get increases to your stats. But you do get new abilities and attacks based on your leveling up. and you get them very often. So you'll get a new attack like every 1 or 2 levels commonly. So by the
Yeah.
end, each character has a dozen different attacks or something, 10 to 12, something like that.
Hmm.
Um, and you don't have to move one in and take another one out. You'll have access to 12 attacks, by the end for each character, which was awesome. And then, so customizability, the varied number of characters, the varied attack patterns that you have, and the varied and each character having 10 or 12 different attacks, that's where the customizability comes from, and that's a lot, and you get to
Oh.
pick which characters want to be, well, yeah, you get to pick which one you're playing with, whatever else. um but there's not a whole lot of equipment customizability, or I want this ability attached to this character. You get a weapon and a little bit of armor, and but not a whole lot of things you can customize there.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the customizability in the, like I said, attack patterns, characters, and number of abilities and attacks per character makes it more than enough to really have to think about each battle, and you can have a pretty unique play style if you want to.
I think so. Before I get to the character section, because this game is so character driven that we're going to devote a little section to speaking just about the characters. What do you think about without getting into spoilers here, the replayability of the game? I know I didn't ask you to prepare this, so I'm just asking you off the cuff.
Well, so you're somebody that's played it multiple times. I'm
Twice, yeah.
somebody that has not, but I also am not somebody that replays games very often. Um, so I don't find myself, I see the draw for replayability, for a number of reasons. There are certain paths, as we talk about the characters, there are several ways you can play each chapter. So that adds a lot of replayability. Each character, yeah, you could devote more or less time. You could there's some super kind of bosses too.
Hmm.
There's one in the prehistory and two in
Oh, it's
the
so
ancient
hard.
Japan.
It's so
Yeah,
hard in prehistory.
yeah, yes. I had an interesting strategy that I went back and was looking through our text chain to remember things that we had talked about when we were playing this, and it reminded me of my odd strategy when I played that. That See, we could talk about that if we want to, but
Cute.
um, but yeah, so there's definitely some points of that make it more fun to replay, and then I would say, yeah, some of the spoiler aspects would absolutely make it more fun to replay.
Yeah,
The how you could switch things around kind of in game wise.
yeah. I was thinking that of like, yeah, I wonder how replayable it is because I would be more likely to replay it than you would be, but I think what makes me want to replay it for a third time even is the fact that it doesn't abuse my time. I get done in 20
Absolutely.
to 25 hours, and I feel like it has not, yeah, abused my time basically. Like another game you and I are both playing right now that we'll talk about at the end of the episode. Yeah. So let's talk quickly about some of the characters. So I'll try to not spoil anything. I do think we have to make a mention of the villain at least,
I
right?
think so. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think I think it's pretty obvious when you get to kind of by the time you've gotten through
by the time you
several of
get
the
there.
chapters.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so
yeah,
too. So the villain, we'll just go with the name Odio, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, which means hate in Latin, though Dio means God in Italian. So some people could say that this means hate God or the God of hate, which I thought was I actually had not put the Italian one together until I did a little bit of research. So I think that's pretty cool. So I'll go through in kind of chronological order, but you can play the characters in any order. You do not have to play them in a timed order, which I also think adds just some nice customizability to the game. So first there's Pogo in prehistory, good old poop throwing Pogo. Very interesting scenario because there's hardly any speech. And Pogo uses his sense of smell to help to discover items or enemies in the field. He's mostly a fighter with a few fire and wind powers. He has his girlfriend at one point and a big ape are party members for him, which is very cute. There is the Shifu, or the Earthen Heart Master, in Imperial China, and that one is unique because the Shifu doesn't level up, and then his you pick up three different disciples, Hong, Yun, and Lei Kugo. I hope I'm saying those correctly. And then something happens in the scenario where you end up with just one of the disciples. I picked Lei both times I played, mostly because I just wanted to make sure I had a single woman in my team somewhere along the lines. She was also my main in the final chapter. She's based off of Bruce Lee, her last name, Lee, Bruce Lee, and also a character from Sun Wukong in the story Journey to the West, which was written in the 16th century. She has a super high speed of everyone in the Imperial China chapter. I think she has the highest speed, but is pretty balanced otherwise. She's mostly a striker. We then go to the twilight of Edo, Japan, and Oboromaru, who I'm going to call Oboro from now on. His scenario, I feel like, has the most variability, and Sam, you might be able to speak to this as well. You go through the scenario and you can kill nobody, you can kill everybody, or you can just, kill who you want. I just kind of killed who I want, who I wanted to. Did you go like a zero kill or a 100% kill?
I did not try a zero kill. That seemed too tedious when I was reading about it. I kind of did an everybody kill for experience points and leveling stuff.
Cool, 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 cool. Each gets you slightly a different ending, and I think depending on what you do, you can get different items in the Edo Japan era depending on what you do. He's a striker with a few fire and ice based spells. He also has this unique ability to be stealthy, and which in turn helps him hide for most battles if you want to hide. It looks like he pulls up what looks like an invisible blanket. I'm describing it to be cuter than it probably is, but I always just kind of chuckled when he did his stealth mode.
I thought it was cute. I wonder now. I never looked back at what the prior to remake. How did that look on
Oh,
those graphics?
I don't know. I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and look.
I hope it's cute still. Then there is the Wild West, that is the Sundown Kid, who I think he only says maybe two things the protagonist does in the Wild West. He doesn't say a lot, I don't believe. Another very obvious inspiration is Clint Eastwood in Western films. Sundown Kid is your long range attacker of the group. He's also called a glass cannon because Baby Boy has some low HP, unfortunately. So you want to keep him in the far back. There is then Masaru Takahara in the present day. Masaru is quite literally Ryu from the Street Fighter series. And the scenario is so unique. It plays out just like Street Fighter, which means it's the super fastest scenario. I think you can finish it in like 30 minutes if you really rush all the way through. He learns his moves by getting hit by other enemies, and then he learns those moves, which basically makes him the blue mage of the group. He's mostly a striker fighter, though he can self heal. There's great reason for him to self heal once you play his scenario. You understand why he would have a power like that. There is Akira in the near future, teenage punk with telekinetic powers. Basically, mind reading and teleportation. I really like this one a lot. I think he was maybe one of my favorites, but we'll get to that in a little bit. This is Tetsuo from the anime Akira, which is also a cyberpunk film. Tetsuo also has telekinetic powers, also rides a motorcycle. Like, this is straight up the character from Akira, and they named him Akira. It's kind of wild. Uh, Akira's essentially your mage character who can heal and perform some offensive magic, and can do a lot of status impacting magic like sleep or fear or confuse. People online really seem to hate him, and I don't really understand. I don't get it either. They're like he's weak at healing, and I'm like, yeah, he's not the best healer, but he's kind of fun.
Yeah, was he a lot worse before the remake? Maybe, maybe in the original he was worse or
That's what
something.
Reddit said. Reddit said that he was a lot worse in the old version, but I've seen just as many people hate on him in the remake, so
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
liked him.
I liked him too. And then there's Cube, cute little Cube in the distant future, the cutest little robot that ever did exist. Cube has the
Cube
offensive.
the Sphere.
Cube the sphere. I know he's a sphere, but they named him Cube. It's very cute. Um, he has offensive attacks like shooting a chicken or shooting goldfish at the enemies. He's basically, though, your best healer in the game if you play him correctly. His scenario has very few battles. In fact, I think you can get through the entire scenario with just the battle at the end. I think it's been a while since I've played it. This is an obvious inspiration from Ridley Scott's Alien, though his name Cube is directly inspired by director Stanley Kubrick. I will not spoil anything. I will say there is another chapter. Actually, there are two more chapters. As soon as you finish the main seven protagonists, other things open up. So it's important that you play all seven protagonists. I'll just say that.
Absolutely. Or yeah, so there's set. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we talk about what we wrote in the next thing?
I think we
Because it kind
do. I
of
think we do. I think we just say, here's where, you know what? F it. Yeah. So here's where it gets spoilery. So
yeah, okay,
if you don't
spoilers.
want to know
Yeah.
spoilers for the game, stop listening now. And maybe I can like do a voiceover and be like, scrub to this part in the podcast to get past the spoilers. But I actually probably won't do that. So forget that I said that. That just sounds like too much work. So there's the eighth chapter. Is it Oristed? Is that how we say his name?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And he's in the Middle Ages. This is your classic Final Fantasy type scenario, complete with random encounters. So, for those out there who hate random encounters, sorry, they're back again. Scenario only opens up once you have completed the other seven chapters. It basically acts as an origin story, and I won't say any more after that. I'll leave some stuff to playing it. And we have this reoccurring villain in all the other periods. And then after you beat chapter 8, there's a final chapter that sees the other protagonists scattered from all their other worlds and brought back into one person's world. Gee, which ones could it be? Who knows? To assemble your team and to defeat the god of hate once and for all. Ooh. All right, so Sam, what's your favorite character? Who's your least favorite character, and why? And also, who did you pick as your disciple?
So you sent this prompt for this episode on who our favorite was, and I was trying to think through it, and I was jumping all around, and what that made me realize is they do a darn good job of all the characters. I think are very likable.
I think so
You
too.
know, you really like them all. So yeah. I mean, I guess I might even change now what I had said before in the thing, maybe Cube is my favorite. I mean, like you said, he's so cute. I love sci-fi stuff, so I've got extra wrinkle right there that tugs at my heartstrings.
Oh,
And uh and then he's got the healer abilities, but he's got other really strong abilities too, and he can attack at range, and it's rather powerful, and he can apply different weaknesses, but he's got a bunch that he can do that I like from a mechanic standpoint. Um so maybe he was my favorite. i i
yeah.
i, I really liked him. I liked the chapter, the Wild West chapter, so much. The Sundown Kid is up there too, just from how much fun that one was. Uh, Least favorite, I guess I would say Masura, because he would be the more forgettable. You just fight, fight, fight. You're only in that one for 30 minutes or an hour or something, and I don't know if there's as much character development. You know, in a few hours, you can only have so much character development, but they honestly do a decent amount of it in the other chapters. You know, you grow to learn more about each of the characters, and so maybe in that one there's not as much growth. So maybe he is my least favorite then. Um, yeah. Did I answer the questions?
You
Who
did.
was
Well,
your favorite and least favorite?
wait, but hold on. I want to ask you another question though. Who was your final? This is totally spoilery, so look out. Who was in your final party?
So my final primary was Cube,
Mm-hmm.
because of kind of like what I said. He'd be the best healer. He's got some ranged attacks. He's got some ability for large AOE and stuff like that. That's good for small minions in addition to the bigger guys, which I liked. Pogo was up there. I mean, so I kind of feel like if you want to min max things and whatever, you have to go with Pogo. He is just so physically brutal. Like his physical attacks, especially the ultimate, if you have his strongest weapon, just one shots. Like it's ridiculous.
I know.
So you have to have Pogo. I feel like to deal. If okay, you don't have to. There's many ways to play this game, but if you want the one person that deals the most damage and it's kind of OP at times, Pogo's on your team. So
Is baby
Pogo was
Pogo.
there. Yeah. I did Akira also. So it's funny. I went back in and played today, and that's how I played a little bit on the final chapter with my team again to kind of see how it goes and what I liked about everybody. So Akira, yeah, I mean Akira's got multiple different elements, and so I could see from my team composition, and this is very me, that I would try to have a variety of elements so that I would always have somebody that could attack different weaknesses on different bad guys and those kind of things. He can attack from distance. He has some healing, and then he had some good debuffs too. So rather balanced. I liked Akira a lot. And then Oboru also. I had him too. I think he's got pretty good damage output. Also, kind of attacks at range too, pretty well. So yeah, and has elemental attacks too. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's fire and ice or something like that for him. So yeah, that's kind of the way I set up my party of 4. What did you do?
Nice. So I played it twice. The first time I used Lei Kugo. She was my primary, and then I took on Oboru, Pogo, and Cube. And I gotta tell you, I think I didn't use Cube and Oboru properly, or how they probably were intended to be used, because I found the last boss battle to be really challenging. Like,
Mm.
and like between Pogo and Lake Kugo, like they both hit hard, you know, and Oboru kind of does too, but I kind of sucked at it a little bit. I
Are
like
you
I
saying it
did.
was harder the first time and easier with the second party composition? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. My,
Gotcha.
my my second party composition was, again, I used Lei Kugo because I just think she's cool, and then Pogo, and then Sundown Kid and Akira. And I actually had an easier time with a glass cannon and the secondary healer. Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's because I also had played the game a second time. I kind of knew
Maybe.
how to work at that
Or
time.
maybe that's a better composition, or maybe you just found a better moves to use,
Something that
for
worked
each
for
one.
me. So yeah, I think I don't know. I also love Cube. He's so cute. I think because the cyberpunk anime mecha style really spoke to me. I think Akira is maybe my favorite scenario to play through. He's at least my favorite scenario to play through for sure, because that friggin' cutscene at the beginning of his scenario that shows like the mecha, like anima. Do you remember? Like shows like the big machine. I'll have to send it to you. It's
Coming out
really,
of the water or something? Is it that one? I'm trying to remember.
after about the
No.
first 10 minutes of his scenario, it has this jarring cut to, it's the opening of a Japanese television show, and
Oh yeah. No, I'm yeah.
you're like, you're not expecting it, and you're like, what the hell is going on? This is so cool.
In a long forgotten place, Babylonia. The king was forced with fist of steel, and the heavens quake to defeat and destroy the evil that now comes.
So I think Akira just because I really like the cyberpunk style, but Cube has my heart forever and ever. And I'm like you, like all the characters were good, but I think my least favorite was Masura, just because it was basically a guy who was playing Street Fighter 2 for about an hour, and then I didn't really see him again until the final scenario. So
Yeah, unfortunately. But 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 that's the thing though. Maybe he was the least strong character, but
maybe,
having his segment, what I wouldn't ever want to get rid of it. I
oh
liked
no,
that. It was a total change of pace. It was a quick one. It was what I wanted and needed in that chapter.
yeah,
So I would never change it, but it just led to less character development.
yeah, it served its purpose, but unfortunately, I think that's all it did. It served its purpose,
Yeah,
gave us a seventh scenario, it gave us our blue mage in the form of a fighter, which was kind of unique,
which is cool.
and that's about it. So I was thinking about this, and I've seen folks ask this question on Reddit too, so I'm not unique in asking it. But
Oh, you
if
so unique.
I so unique, if a sequel came out, Sam, what time periods and/or types of characters would you like to see?
This is a good question though. So wherever you found it, I think it's a good question. Um, I like sci-fi stuff so much that my mind went there first. I think a future person with other future tech, or maybe even a future alien race. Maybe the human race interacts with some aliens, and you get an alien from the future that comes back or is involved. That would be cool. It seems like it could have been part of this one, but maybe like a Viking, somebody from Norse mythology, those kind of things. I feel like that's pretty close to what could have happened here. That would have fit. They had yeah. So that one would have been a good one. Or alternatively, if they redid the game, I think in addition to maybe those genres, some areas that would be lacking would be, again, I don't have a very good knowledge of the historical time periods in these continents and countries, but I think that South America, Africa, the Indian subcontinent, Australia, those places are largely missing. It's mostly the United States, Japan, China in this one, right? So looking at the ancient histories of these other cultures would be really cool.
I
So
think
that's
so.
where my mind jumped to.
That's really, I mean, I really like that idea of other cultures outside. I didn't even think about that, but you're right. It's very much China, Japan, and the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be kind of cool to see other cultures brought into it, and if a sequel were to ever come out. I think it'd be really cool to have like a survival horror chapter in the modern day where maybe it's on like a university and it's some stupid college kids who like summon a demon, and it could be like the Shifu, like the chapter where you get to pick the three disciples, except for this you get to pick like your final girl to be your protagonist for the
Ooh.
chapter. Like I think it could be kind of cool. And
So the Shifu is the demon, or the
no,
Shifu is.
no, it would just be similar to the Shifu chapter in that you ultimately get to pick one of your final girls. Not that the Shifu is the demon or anything. I'm just using
Uh,
that
yeah,
chapter
yeah.
as like an example. I just think
That'd
it'd
be
be kind of
cool.
cool. Also, because I guess I'm like your daughter, what if a character was a dog or a cat? But like a futuristic dog or cat that has a device they're wearing so they can understand human language and that they can communicate with human language. So it'd be like distant, far distant future.
I I think that one would be very popular.
I think it'd be fun. I mean, if you can have a cute little good boy like Cube, why couldn't you have a cute little good doggy boy or kitty girl? I don't know.
Love it. Love it.
Thanks. It'd be very fun.
So I so next time they remake it, they'll or they do a second one.
Let's do a second one. Let's do a sequel.
Yeah, a sequel. That's what they should do. But for the current one, let us know, DJ, with your knowledge of music, a little bit more about the musical arrangements in this remake.
The music slaps. It's so good. It's really quite good. I have this like 30 seconds about this. So, yay, another female musical composer. I think this is the second one we've talked about in our 4 episodes, which is pretty freaking cool. Yoko Shimomura is the composer for Live Alive. So, being a female composer in the video game industry today is still not a super duper common thing. So, Yoko started to create her legacy as a video game composer all the way back in 1988, which is pretty baller, like a baller move by her. She composed the music for Final Fight and Street Fighter 2 when she originally worked for Capcom. Like right out of college, she got a job composing for games at Capcom. Pretty
Whoa,
awesome.
whoa.
Yeah. Then she joined Square, now lovingly known as Square Enix, for her very first project there, Live Alive. She then worked on music in other RPGs such as Parasite Eve, we're definitely going to play it, Super Mario RPG, Legend of Mana, Final Fantasy 15, The Bro Chronicles. That's what it is. Xenoblade Chronicles also. Though her best known work is probably the Kingdom Hearts series. This is what she did. I think she did all of the Kingdom Hearts series music. So she has just
Oh,
created this
wow.
awesome legacy for anybody, but the fact that she gets to kind of lift up other female composers in the genre and say like you can do this too, man. I just think is really really cool.
The music's so good. So I went back and listened to Spotify playlist of all the music when we
Hmm.
were preparing for this. And I've got to say, it had been 2 years since I played it. So, off the top of my head, I was having a hard time I was like, I know it was so good. And I was having a hard time remembering the exact tracks. But right when I started listening to it, you'd get a few notes in and I'd be humming the rest of it. I
Yep,
would, that's how good they are, because you're also not spending that much time, as we mentioned, in each chapter. And there's a
that's true.
lot of short tracks. Each track feels like it's a short one. And you're in that for like an hour or two, and that's all that you really heard that track. And 2 years later, I can hum the rest of it and I remember the rest of it. And it kind of takes you back to where you were in that chapter. So I think that speaks to the quality.
And it speaks to her knowing various different genres of music, but also knowing different cultural aspects of music too, because like Cube's scenario sounds like it's straight up, a 2001 Space Odyssey or Aliens. It has that low hum where
Absolutely.
it's this constant creep that's happening, whereas in the Wild West, you have the whistling, the little motion. That's not how it goes, but you have that like little whistling, and at least here in the States, once you hear that, we instantly think of the planes and a tumbleweed
Oh,
going
absolutely.
going by, and she captures that in like 4 pitches. It's
Oh,
it's
yep.
it's so brilliant of her. I think because it's her culture, she obviously captures like the Japan, the Edo Twilight Edo era quite well. I Yeah, it's just each culture that is represented in Live Alive, their music is represented as well, like really really well.
Yeah, I feel like that should be a daunting task to say, okay, we're gonna have all these different settings, all these different time frames, all these different characters. Now give us a score. Maybe that was exciting to her because she's so good, but man, just knocked it out of the park.
I
So
mean, totally knocked it out of the park.
yeah, absolutely. Well, very, very good. I will say, I will bring up do we want to talk about the super boss way, that I think that I was going to talk about for the big woolly mammoth dude, or not? We're just spoiling everything.
You're just gonna spoil it, so spoil away, woolly mammoth.
Well,
That's what I
well,
call you anyway.
there you go.
Yeah.
Because of my long locks.
Rrrr.
Um, but I was looking back at our text conversation when we were playing this, and you were able to beat that super boss effectively, it sounds like, through normal means. And I looked at what I did, and apparently I just poisoned it by throwing poop and then ran away from it the whole time, because every time I got right up next to it, it would one shot me. So my strategy was just poison it and run away. and apparently it worked. It just took forever. But anyway, yeah. So, but speaking of, but that made me think.
But Sam, what's the difference between poison and venom? Oh,
Oh,
segue.
well, yeah. So it made me think about the poisoning, and quite honestly, what it made me think about is poisoning in RPGs, in any kind of RPGs. Very common status effect that happens, and I very much dislike it for a number of reasons. You are going to start losing HP. Sometimes it still attacks you outside of the battle in certain games. You still
Hate
get,
that.
and probably the worst part, I have to spend my money not on better items or armor. I have to buy a special medicine just in case some jerk bad guy poisons me. And so I dislike the poisoned effect when it's against me. But it made me think about, hey, this happens all the time in games. How, what happens in the real world? And then it also made me think, wait, are we envenomating something? Are we poisoning them? What's the difference there? What's going on? So I did look up a couple things there. So largely, if we want to talk about poisoning or venom, both of them are toxins. Both of them are going to damage tissues, damage an organism's health, or kill them. And they can, but the thing is, it's kind of, is it passive or is it active? And only really in medical and biological fields may they try to make this distinction. Sounds like it's a lot of semantics. Sounds like there's not a whole lot of agreement. The in general would be, some people like to say that a venom has to be injected or actively, or like a bite or a sting or an injection. So think of snakes, think of jellyfish, think of let's see, what else did I write down? Scorpions with a sting, bees, wasps. So all those would technically have more of what you might call a venom. Some people might call that. And then poisons are more passive. So maybe they secrete it in their skin. So if they're eaten, then they might be spit right back out. Or so pufferfish have that. Certain amphibians like frogs, stonefish. So there's other things like that. It's more passive. But it doesn't always work that way. So some examples of exceptions that I thought were pretty interesting would be spitting snakes. You have a spitting cobra, so it's got venom, right? You think, oh, it's venom. It's a cobra, they bite. But these ones spit it out as a deterrent and try to hit animals in the eyes, predators in the eyes, those kind of things. So is that a poison? Is that a venom? Harder to say. And then there's the bombardier beetle, which is rather cool also. So this guy uses their poison, venom, and it shoots it, but it's doing it defensively. So that's pretty active, though. It's shooting it at something to deter it, but it's not injecting it or biting it. So what is that exactly? So anyway,
it's gross. That's what it is.
It's gross. It's cool. It's so cool. Yeah, I think it's. What was another one that was kind of cool? There's a slow loris. So have you heard of that before?
Oh yeah, the slow loris. I actually wrote a paper about that in middle school. No, I've not heard of that.
Okay. So it's this. So it lives in Southeast Asia. It's this like, I think it's a type of primate. And so what it does is it has a gland like underneath its arm or something that has, we can cut all of this.
Oh no,
so
we're keeping all of it, you nerd.
So it has some toxins in that gland apparently, and it will lick the gland and then can bite animals to deter. Generally it's more defensive, but it's using that as, so is that toxin going to be a venom because it's biting them, or is it not? But then it also licks the gland and then licks itself to cover itself in the toxin to protect itself from predators.
That's actually kind of smart.
It's pretty smart. It's not that. Yeah. It's not a slow loris. He's a smart loris.
Wow, I love that for you.
And so we'll be cutting all of this, and I'll be leaving the podcast forever after this segment. But
no, I think it's interesting.
It was interesting. So.
I mean, there's poison and or venom in like every RPG. So now,
RPG
going forward, I will always think of this fond medical moment of you teaching.
There you go. Well, and most of the time, so there'll be baddies that are animals that bite you. So that one, is that seems almost more like a venom if they're biting you, right? But you generally are called poisoned, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And most of the time when you have a weapon, it's like a dagger or something sharp that you're also actively. So that's almost more like envenomating something than poisoning them. But we always say poisoned.
We just say
So
poison. So everyone who's listening, go play Live Alive. Actually, I mean, truly go play it. We don't do scores or rankings really on this channel, but it is, for me, it's a top. Let me pull up my list of video games I have.
oh, you've got a list. Okay,
I've
you
got a
pull that
list.
up. I'll say I don't know that I have a list like that, but it is a fantastic RPG that is relatively bite-sized compared to other ones. A battle system that is more unique with the 7x7 grid than you might have seen other places. The music will have you humming it before you're done, and yeah, and it'll endear you to it by the end, and it also won't take up a lot of your time. So those are my points for recommendation.
I mean, you absolutely should play it. I love that it treats your time with respect. The music is so engaging. The characters, even the characters that you and I both said was our least favorite character, is still really fun. We just don't get to spend as much time with him. It's really fun. It's a simple battle system, but it's never boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you
absolutely.
mentioned, if you don't take the battle seriously, you can still get wiped out by a trash mob if
You can.
you don't s- treat it slightly strategically. So yeah, I just took a look at my list. It's in my top 15 games of all time.
Ooh.
So I would confidently put it in my top 10, honestly.
Just keeps
So
moving up.
it does keep
I think
moving
earlier in
up.
the episode you said top 20, and
I
then just now
did.
you
I
went
did.
from
It's
top
it's in my
15 to
top
top 10.
five, honestly. It's in my top one, honestly. Nah, but it's literally on my list of like 13 games that I have that I'm like, I've played these multiple times. These are clearly games I love. And 12 out of 13 of those games are RPGs.
It's a winner. Yeah, if somebody's listening to this and they like RPGs, it's a winner. It's one to
It's
try.
a total winner. What else are
If
you
they haven't, if they haven't already played it.
if they have played it, just play it again then, because it's really fun. It's a little weekend game. Sam, I think I know the answer to this because I think we're playing the same thing right now because we're prepping for a giant episode in the future. But what are you playing right now?
I am playing Persona 3 Reload. Yeah,
I am too. I'm playing it on the PS5. What are you playing it on?
I'm playing it on the Xbox Series X.
Fun. Look out for that episode. It sometime this year, though. I feel like
Yeah, who knows when it'll finally be over.
it'll be a while because I'm about 25 hours into it right now, and the story is just now opening up.
I think I'm 15 actual hours. As I told DJ, I apparently didn't have it on an actual screen. I had it on some screen when I thought I was paused, and I wasn't. So when the next time I saved it, it jumped by like 12 hours.
I hate
But
that.
who cares? Now it looks
It's
like I've
fine.
put a lot more time into it.
Whatever. So, this has been another fun episode of Turn Based Besties. You can find us on Instagram at Turn Based Besties. You can listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, Overcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Probably a few places that we don't know about.
Probably.
Go to our socials. Let us know a game that you're excited about playing in 2024. You know, that's why we even covered Live Alive today, is because someone let us know they're excited about this game. So that's why we're covering it. So we will actually read your email and
We will.
try to do an episode if you suggest. You can email us at turnbasedbesties at gmail and let us know, do you know of a game that has a cool medical moment about poisoning or venoming your people? That's every RPG. Just kidding.
Tell us about all of them. Or honestly, yeah, on our socials, let us know if you have played Live Alive. Gosh, I can't say it right. Let us know your favorite character and why. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, we do.
when everything in the world points right, maybe go left and see what you find. I'm Sam.
And I am DJ. This is Turn Based Besties. Bye.
Bye.